If everything goes fine, perfect. So can you say hi to sheddt12? All right. Hi. So you're good to go.
Yeah, awesome. Hi everybody. My name is sheddt12. I'm so sorry I could not make it to the event. This was due to visa issues, so I was trying to get my visa and it still has not come. So maybe when I get it, I'll still come to Belgium, but I did not get my visa on time. So apologies for that. And yeah, so let's just get started with the session. What's the time? Okay, perfect. So today I'm going to be talking about decoupling 101, why decouple, when not to, progressive decoupling, and success stories in decoupling. This topic is based on my experience working as a developer relations engineer at platform.sh, which is also sort of sponsoring a social hour in this event. So, yeah. Um, so let's get started. So who am I? Like I said, my name is sheddt12 Akintayo. I'm talking to everyone here live from Lagos, Nigeria, which is a state in Nigeria and a country in Western Africa. I am a developer relations engineer at Platform Message. I do my bit of technical writing for various publications, and I am a community builder. I try to build, tech communities here in Africa, open source community Africa, DevRel community Africa, and aside, amongst others. So for today, we will be talking about decoupling, like I said, 101. So this is like an introduction to decoupling talk. And yeah, let's just see. Discussing what the is, instead of deploying decoupled, why decouple, when not to decouple, progressive decoupling, and success stories that we've seen from our users at platform message. So let's just quickly and get into the basics of decoupling. So I know every single person here must have an experience with Drupal. The monolithic Drupal where we have content management and content presentation. Drupal handling every single thing, both the content management and the content presentation. That's like what we are used to. Monolithic Drupal. Every single person here probably already knows that. Now, decoupling. So, what makes decoupling different? What makes decoupling special is that it separates presentation responsibilities to a JavaScript application powered by an accessible Drupal API for content. So if you look at this diagram here, we have a front-end application, a full decoupled application that has a front end with Gatsby and JavaScript, Node.js, right? So the front end is handles content presentation. Then we have a Drupal API, which is probably a REST API or a GraphQL API, probably. Then we have the backend, which is Drupal handling content management. So this is like the most basic and the simplest form of a decoupled architecture. You have a front end, presentation, which is maybe could be Gatsby, React, could be Next.js, could be whatever it is that you want it to be. And then we have an API which is communicating with a Drupal backend. So this is like the most basic form of a decoupled architecture. Now, abstraction is also one important thing that we need to consider when talking about this decoupling, because if the API is abstract enough, when you are trying to build a decoupled application, you have to make sure that your API is as abstract as possible. If it's as abstract as possible, if it's not dependent on a particular style of, a particular style of architecture, front-end architecture, then you can easily switch out front ends however it is you like. So if you know React is buzzing, you have more React engineers, you can switch your Next.js or your Gatsby front end to React, full React if you want that. If you want to go back to Next.js, you can easily do it as long as your API is abstract enough for the front end to consume. Then another thing that people consider when looking at decoupling is the teams, right? It allows for dedicated teams with now responsibilities. So what this means is basically that teams have smaller responsibilities. You have smaller, close knitted teams that are are responsible for different parts of actual have for and in fact the front end work. Then you have people that are experienced in Drupal doing the back end or the content management work. This is like it makes your team even more smaller and narrow responsibilities. Then collaboration becomes even better. And recruitment, in your experience, in my experience, I know that there are so much more JavaScript developers in various ecosystems. So hiring JS people is easier than other. This is my experience. I could be wrong in maybe in Europe, but in my experience working with various companies, in San Francisco and also in Europe, I have noticed that hiring JavaScript developers is easier compared to other people, because I think every single person these days is the first introduction to programming they are usually having is like, okay, start with front end, then maybe go back end. Most of the time, that's the conventional way. So hiring JavaScript developers would be easier, and collaborations can even be better. Now, heads, replacing heads, that means many heads. So um, instead of depending on just one person to work on, just one team to work on both the content presentation and the content management, when you have a decoupled architecture, you are going to replace that head to with many other heads, because you can hire more people on the front end, you can hire more people on the back end, and you hire more experienced people on the front end that are very, very specialized. When you see specialized engineers, you know that whatever work they are doing on that particular field they are specialized in, it has to be quality, has to be top notch, because they are specialized in just that particular field. There's no shifting of responsibilities, etc. So this is also one really, really important aspect of decoupling. So how have I worked in my experience, how have I seen deploy decoupled applications deployed. I'm going to use platform.sh as a case study. So deploying decoupled is basically taking different types of taking your front end, taking your back end, and putting it on the same server, right? The way it works in platform message. Now, platform message multi-app is basically a project containing a cluster of containers communicating over internet network. So in this particular situation, you have an application in a particular container that has several other containers. So your front-end application can be in a Node.js app container. Your Drupal content management system can be a PHP container. You can connect maybe Redis. You can connect Elasticsearch. The beautiful thing about this is that they are all in a single container communicating over internet network. So you don't need to host your application in your front-end application in a different server and your backend application in a different server. Every single thing is in one container on one particular server. Now, each app resides in its own subdirectory. Let me quickly just demonstrate that. So if you look at this file structure here, there's a Drupal, directory, there's a Gatsby directory. So this way, you know where you need to search for what. If something fails on the front end, okay, I just need to check the Gatsby folder, and this is where I need to search for everything relating to the front-end application. Then if something is wrong with the API, maybe Gatsby is not pulling content from the API properly. I'm just using Gatsby as a replacement for a front end, architecture, a front end system rather. You know that okay, Gatsby is supposed to pull content from the API. Whenever you're not seeing content being, pulled from the API and the Gatsby app is not crashing or it's not running, I just need to check the Drupal folder, check for maybe a particular thing to see what is stalling, preventing the API from pulling content. Then you can build the app, you can serve it, you can configure the app to have dependent build, live previews. Like when you make a particular change on your app, on your Drupal backend, right? In the management system, the in dashboard in your Drupal sort of that's it's a single project, right? Every single person in the team is developing on a single app, but you can branch out, different branches. You can have the front end, you can have the back end, you can have a master branch where the front end and the back end comes together. So it's a single project. So if you look at this configuration file here, this is like one of the almost basic form, deploying a Gatsby and Drupal application or put up on Gatsby. Then if you look closely, I don't know if everybody can see this. Can everybody see the relationships section of the file? I'm just this particular block of code, the relationships. Can anybody see it? Great. Thank you. If you see, this is where you can access the Drupal after the Drupal content after the Gatsby application has built. So all you just it creates a relationship between the Drupal installation you have and the Gatsby installation you have. That's basically every single thing you need to do.
I'm sorry.
Then
I'm sorry to interrupt. We have sometimes a bit of a problem with lag on the internet. There's nothing we can do. Just want to inform you that sometimes the connection is not optimal.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, so if you do not hear at any points, if you need me to repeat myself, I'm happy to do that at any time. Just signal me. Awesome. So the next thing is hooks. So I'm basically run an npm build and that builds your Gatsby application and then put content immediately from your Drupal application. Then yeah, that's basically how the easiest way I've seen to deploy a decoupled application by just writing YAML for the most part. So if you see this is like these screenshots I just posted here are like my a demo, right? It's a demo of how a Gatsby and Drupal application is working. And if you see the content backend, which is Drupal, everybody here must have seen this particular UI. That's the content backend UI a lot of times, right? Every single person I've seen here a lot of time if you've been working in the Drupal ecosystem for a long time. So it's not something new. So if you look at the article and the content there, you can see that on the Gatsby front end, it is basically the same thing, right? So if I make a change in the content backend, I would see the same thing on the content front end, which is in the Gatsby application. So this is how you have a working decoupled application and you see everything working live. If I make a change in the backend, it definitely deploys on the front end. This is how you can deploy a decoupled application generally. Now let's just move further. So why decouple and advantages and the improvements? So it would be very unfair for me to talk about decoupling without telling you why you need to do it, right? The advantages and how what improvements it adds to your team. Of course, if I'm talking about these advantages, I definitely have to talk about disadvantages, right? I'm definitely not going to be biased in that particular form, even though I'm talking about decoupling. Now, let's move on to that. So the pros of decoupling your application as in a watered down form is focus, hiring experts, interchangeable front ends, and a common API. So I'm just going to explain every single one of these. I'm going to explain every single one of these as fast as possible. Now, focus. Expert teams with dedicated responsibilities. So, like I mentioned at the beginning of the talk, if your API is abstract enough, right? If you have an abstract enough API, teams can focus on one part rather than the whole website, right? So you can have a dedicated front-end team, you can have a dedicated back-end team working for you at every single time. Node.js experts can focus on the front end, WordPress experts can focus on the back end, or Drupal experts can focus on the back end. Any single type of backend you're using. So for Drupal in this particular case, then better recruiting across around other languages. So this is in my experience. Like I said, I like to make that that particular that particular disclaimer because I feel like far more talented Node.js developers are out there than PHP, Drupal, because Drupal is a specialized field, right? It's like you have to specialize in it. You have to spend a lot of time working in it, and the amount of Drupal developers I've seen compared to Node.js developers I've seen is like really the gap is a lot, right? I've seen like far more Node.js developers than I've seen Drupal developers. Maybe I need to come to Belgium to be among more Drupal developers. It would be something I really wanted to do, but yeah, I couldn't make it. So use the tool best for the job. So one the selling point of the coupled application is interchangeable front ends, right? You can, whenever you need to switch, right? Whenever you need a particular feature in a particular type of front end, you can easily switch it out. That's why I mentioned interchangeable front end. Gatsby, React, Next.js, Vue.js, they are very, very more flexible, solving important problem than, relying on Drupal plugins, like trying to install plugins here and there. With having a interchangeable front end, you have the time and the flexibility to architect how you want your front end to look like. You have the flexibility to do that. You do not rely on plugins. Again, like I said, interchangeable front ends requires abstract API. You need to spend time working on the API that connects both the content presentation on the back and the content management system. Now, you can switch out to the latest front end and the best framework you need. If you spend time, I don't know if anybody here has worked in the JavaScript ecosystem or in the front end ecosystem. You know that it's every single day that new tools, shiny tools come out. Today you're like Vue.js, then after like maybe a year or two, you hear there's React, and you hear there's Svelte, there's Solid.js. Like the way the front end ecosystem moves really fast is really, really, it's something that should be studied. So it's really, really flexible, and every single person have use cases. So in the front end ecosystem, I feel like every single person, most of the tools there are just reinventing the wheels. Like React can have hot module replacements, and Vue.js might not have hot module replacement. And okay, I need hot module replacement, so I take React, and maybe in like a few months, I noticed that I no longer need hot module replacements. I need maybe a particular API that Vue.js have. I switch to Vue.js. That's the beauty of having the decoupled application. You can really interchange the front end based on the current trends. It's not advisable though, but you can do that if you want. So many heads, same backend. So same backend can be consumed by multiple front ends with different purposes. So you can have the same Drupal installation working for your marketing sites, for your main sites, for your blogging sites, and just have multiple front ends consuming the same Drupal API and the same content from your Drupal content management system. So that's it. So this many heads across many teams, right? Removing presentation responsibility from Drupal to one or many sites is one of the most interesting parts about decoupling your application. You can also have one. You can also have a different front end for each device. You can have a different front end for each regional site. You can have one site for each team. You can basically, this just allows you to keep content in sync across them all with the single backend that you have, but you can have multiple front ends. This is like my favorite part of being of having a decoupled architecture. So maybe I've convinced you on why you should decouple. Now I'm just going to tell you maybe you shouldn't decouple, right? Maybe it's not the right way for you. So consider the following or your CMS. Got it. So reasons not to decouple your application. The amount of work that is needed to get there is really, really is a lot, right? So you need to spend a lot of time, thinking, architecting, brainstorming an abstract enough API. So decoupling means removing context dependence of front end from the back end, right? You're basically removing the dependent on the front end from the back end. So you need a strong API that can be consumed by any team without any absorptions. Then doubles the concerns, right? So now you have two applications running on the same server. You have a front-end application, you have a back-end application. So now think about the amount of tests you need to write. You need to write tests for both the front-end and the back-end. I know many people probably do not like writing tests, but we just need to write tests because, best practices to keep everything secure, to pass QA tests, to pass the QA pipeline, to pass the CI/CD pipeline. Tests are very, very important. So now you have to worry about having two applications, and the security concerns begins to grow. So double the tests, double the security oversight. Now, rewrite tools supported by monolith. So if you have plugins or you have a particular plugin you use that your Drupal, your monolith Drupal application needs, now you have to rewrite it to support a decoupled application. That's like even more stressful, right? Now, team isolation. Even though the couple promises collaboration, better collaboration, the truth is front end and back end teams. The promise of the couple is that front end and back end teams do not need to worry about back end or front-end engineering. The reality is that work is necessary to keep coordination and visibility, especially when posted in two places. The teams are isolated from each other, right? The front-end team is only worried about what is on the front end. The back-end team is only worried about what is on the back end. It can create a little bit of team isolation. So progressive decoupling. Progressive decoupling is a very, very a bit different from full decoupling. You get all the benefits of decoupling while avoiding some of the downside. In progressive decoupling, basically, a JavaScript framework is layered on top of a pre-existing Drupal front end. Now, this is the selling point, right? You have a Drupal front end, you have a Drupal content management system, you have a monolithic Drupal. What you're just doing is that you're adding a JavaScript framework layered on top of a pre-existing Drupal front end. So that JavaScript framework could be Vue, could be React, or whatever it is. Now, the best way to progressive decouple the websites is to use widgets because of the flexibility they provide. This is like a tip. I'm giving out something I've experienced over the course of my career. Then widgets are standalone applications by nature. They adhere to the decoupled principle, like anywhere, not just in Drupal, even in front-end development. Widgets are usually standalone application, maybe an iframe or something. Now, appeals to both developers and content editors. Developers get to leverage whatever JavaScript framework of their choice without having to mess with the content editor's workflow. Now, the thing about decoupled architecture is that attention is being paid on both the developers and the people that are actually writing the content that is being served on the front end. So that way, you do not, if you have progressive decoupled your application, you have a sync between the developers and the content editors. Nobody's work is clashing each other. It's really, really interesting. So now, what are the drawbacks of progressive decoupling? I'm just going to run through this quick because time is not on my side. Progressive decoupling does not leverage server-side rendering via Node.js. So if you are very, very in need of server-side rendering, for the SEO benefits or whatever benefits it is, progressive decoupling does not leverage that. The higher cost of layering an existing a content architecture or content framework on top of the existing Drupal application, it can be stressful, right? JavaScript Ascension is not going to stop anytime soon. Therefore, the risks of sacrificing some of Drupal's popular capabilities might still seem insignificant compared to the JavaScript advantages at the front end level. So you might need to sacrifice some of Drupal's popular capabilities if you are going to go the progressive decoupling way, which is not something just anybody can do, something just anybody can consider because of technical depth that can be amassed over time. So let's just quickly talk about the decoupling success stories. Like these are like teams I've seen and I've seen them demo their app. So during the pandemic, a film festival was running on a single Drupal 7 site. Now, over the pandemic, which is something that a lot of people decided to do, every single thing was moved online, right? It's because of the pandemic that I'm talking to every single person here from Google Meet or from via the internet. So the challenge was that they need to move their entire festival online during COVID while improving site reliability, and also maintaining their festival credibility. So this IFR and BOSS decided to, go to the decoupled architecture way. They delivered the online festival 100%, which opened up for more further microservices enhancements towards a general streaming platform. They were able to also create a flexible virtual platform that sets the stage for new, exciting digital opportunities and experiences for future purposes. So there's a link to this particular case study on my slides. I would share my slides with the organizers for them to share it with every single person that needs it, so you can read the case study and understand how they were able to pull this off in full. Then open social. So open social is basically a SaaS that is a fully built decoupled SaaS product. This is something that is still ongoing. This is something they are trying to achieve. So the idea is that they have a Drupal installation profile that they sell to individual users so that they can get their own community site. So think about Discourse, but this time as Drupal, right? That's why the company is open social. They decouple because it allows independent development. Like I suggested, every single team is focused on one particular side of the full application. It opens up to more integrations and external channels. A community site is supposed to be able to have various integrations. Like something like, so for example, something like Discord that you can connect, Asana, you can connect Jira, you can connect. So this is basically what we were trying to pull off on the web by having a decoupled application. Now, decoupling has provided Open Social a platform that is faster, leaner, more flexible, and easier to continuously update and improve. Like I mentioned, you can read the case study and just click on the link here in the presentation when you get your hands on it. So moving on to Nate, I come to the end of my talk. I hope I was able to keep to time. My name is sheddt12. I am a developer relations engineer at platform.sh. If you need to follow me on Twitter, coda_BLVCK, and you can reach out to me if you have any questions. And yeah, if you need to reach out to me on email, it's first name dot last name at platform.sh if you need more, more information. Thank you so much for having me. I really wanted to be in Belgium for this talk, but I'm really, really grateful for the organizers for, making me pull this off with this online way. I hope you enjoyed my talk. I hope I did not bore you all. So thank you so much once again for having me.
Thank you so much, Drag. Perhaps we have time for one more question.
Okay.
Questions?
Sit down here. I can be in the picture as well, right? Not even. oh, there I am. So, hi, thanks for the talk. So I was wondering, like decoupled setups with Drupal are, well, I guess relatively easy now when it comes to content, but obviously we offer much more control to editors than just content, like menus and translations and layout things and appearance stuff. In your experience, are we already advanced enough with the Drupal backends to offer the same amount of control in a decoupled setup?
So can you say the last part of your question? I did not get that. Maybe someone closer to the camera or something can say that.
Okay, so does Drupal already offer enough control and APIs to make a decoupled site which offers the editors like control over translations and menus and layout, like all of it, just because there's more than just content that editors want to edit?
I think the one thing that I love about the Drupal ecosystem is the growth that happens during over time. So I've seen, in terms of translation, right, in terms of various all the points you've made, the Drupal ecosystem have gotten to that particular point, right? If you need anything specific, you can always write a plugin for it, right? You can always, write a plugin for it, connect it to the API, and you can always save at the front end. So I think Drupal is that advanced enough to be able to offer those particular features and the other features in a decoupled site. In my experience, yeah.
Okay, so if it's not there, just write your own endpoint. That's basically
basically that's the beauty. That's the beauty about having a decoupled application, because once you write your own endpoint and you can easily just consume it on a on the front end with a JavaScript application, it's really beautiful. That's one of the beauty. It gives you flexibility, it gives you the ability to to think and innovate generally in terms of architecting your application. You are the free will to do whatever it is you want, honestly.
Thanks.
Thanks again, Cedric.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, everybody. Thanks so much, everybody.